In this video, I'll be attempting to beat Pokemon Emerald by using only Dark-type Pokemon. I have added a few more rules to make the game even harder. The rules I will be following are on screen now and in the description below. If at any point in this video you do enjoy, think about dropping a like or even subscribing for future videos. Without further ado, let's get into it. I go and catch my first two team members, C-Dot and Poochyena, and name them Greed and Sloth. I then evolved my C-Dot into a Nuzlocke before taking on Roxanne. The battle with Roxanne begins with her two Geodudes coming out, one after another, both facing the wrath of Sloth, my Nuzlocke, and being obliterated by two Bullet Seeds. Roxanne then sends in her final Pokemon, Nosepass, which suffers a similar fate to the Geodudes and dies to a few Bullet Seeds. And that gives us our first gym badge. I then caught Envy the Sableye in Granite Cave. Greed then evolved into a Mightyena just before the battle with the Brawly. Although having a super effective advantage against most of my team, Brawly did not pose much of a threat to me, as I had Envy on my team, who completely negated the effect of his fighting type moves, leading him to use setup moves or protect the entire battle, leading to his three Pokemon pretty much being taken down by Nightshades and Astonishers, leading to our second gym badge. Next up was our first real rival battle with May on Route 110, where she leads off with a Wingull, which is swiftly taken out by two bites from my Mightyena. May then sends in a Combusken next, to which I answer with Envy to negate her double kick, and then she is taken out by Nightshades. May then brings in her final Pokemon, Lombre, which I then answer with Greed the Mightyena, who then takes it out with a few bites after taking a couple absorbs, winning the battle. Now it was time for the third gym battle against Watson. He leads with his Voltorb, and I lean with Mightyena, lowering his health with bites down to the red, before switching into Envy, predicting this self-destruct. He then sends in his Electrike, which I answer with my Nuzlocke, hitting with a Fake Out, and then multiple Bullet Seeds, and then Nature Power. He then sends in his Magneton, to which I use Bide, hoping and praying that his Magneton does not knock out my Nuzlocke, to which he doesn't, and I fire back, killing that Magneton. He then sends in his final Mon, Manectric, and I send in Envy. After he heals up his Manectric, and Envy is on 5 health, I have to sack off Sloth to send in my Mightyena to do damage. Greed valiantly brings Manectric down into the red, and then dies off. Manectric is now low enough on health to where a Fake Out will kill him, winning us the battle, but sadly not without casualty. Before moving on, I take myself to the PC and lay my fallen comrades down to rest in the PC. I then make my way swiftly up to the top of Mount Chimney, where I take on Maxie, and Sableye, with still vengeance in his mouth after the loss of his comrades, murders his entire team. After beating Maxie, I then take my way down to Lavaridge City and take on Flannery. She starts off with her Numel, and I lead with Sableye, who then takes it out with a Dig. Flannery then sends in her Slugma next, which also gets taken out by a single Dig. Flannery then sends in her Camerupt, and I hit her with 2 digs, knocking it out, but not before it takes Envy down to around 30 HP. She then sends in her ace Pokemon Torkoal, to which I get extremely lucky, dodging 2 overheats and then knocking it out with 3 Nightshades, winning me the badge. I then catch a Cacnea in the desert, but cannot use it as it's not evolved yet and not a dark type. It's now time for the fight against my father, the 5th gym leader, Norman, to which he leads off with a Spinder, which is taken out by 2 feint attacks. Norman then sends in his Vigoroth, to which I then knock out after using a few more feint attacks. Norman then sent in his ace Pokemon, Slacking, which would normally be a major problem, but in this case it wasn't, as I would dig on his turns and then to dodge his attack on the next turn and then kill him after a certain amount of turns. He then sends in his final Pokemon, Linoon, who uses Belly Drum, taking away half of its health, and then I take away the last half of his health with Feint Attack critical hit, knocking him out and winning me my 5th gym badge. I then go and catch Pride the Carvana and Lust the Corefish. I then evolve Lust into a Crawdon, making it Dark type, which allows me to now use it. I then proceeded to clear out the Weather Institute and release the cast form given to me. I then battled May once again on Route 119, but absolutely rolled through her. Right after the battle with May, Pride then evolved into a Sharpedo. I then caught Wrath the Absol up on Route 120. And just before the gym battle with Winona, Glutton evolved into Cacturn. It was now time for the 6th gym battle against Winona. Cacturn in this battle was overleveled, so I couldn't use him. Not that it mattered. Wrath then took out her first Swablu with 2 strengths. Winona then sends in her Tropius, which is able to deal a hefty amount of damage to Wrath with a Solar Beam, just before being taken out by 3 consecutive strengths. Winona then brings out her Pelipper, which is then destroyed by a Thunderbolt from Wrath. Her Skarmory is then brought in next, but because of the damage dealt to Wrath, I have to switch him out for Pride. Pride then hits 2 Surfs, the second one being a critical hit, knocking out the Skarmory. Winona now only has her Altaria left, which is then brought out, but because of the damage dealt by the Skarmory, I have to take my Sharpedo out and put in Lust. Lust has Ice Beam, to which deals with Winona, last Pokemon Altaria, quite easily, knocking it out and winning us our 6th gym badge. I then witness Archie blatantly steal the Red Orb on Vampire. I then absolutely destroy Maxie in his hideout. I then once again witness Archie stealing the submarine from Slateport. I decide that Archie's criminal activities don't involve me, so I just go off and face the 7th gym leaders. They lead with Claydol and Xatu, which isn't a problem as Xatu cannot touch my team, so I mostly just focus down the right hand side, eliminating all the Pokemon, Claydol first, Solrock next, and then Lunatone, ending the battle off by knocking out Xatu and winning my 7th gym badge easily. After beating Tate and Liza, I then head off to the Mosdeep space station to help Steven fight Maxie and Tabitha for the final time. I start by taking out the first Camerupt and Mightyena with Surfs. I continue by taking out the next Camerupt and Mightyena with Surfs as well. Metang then takes out the Crobat with a Psychic while I take out the Golbat with a Crunch, winning the battle. I now decide to confront Archie about his criminal activities in this seafloor cabin as he tries to wake up Kogue. He then leads with his Mightyena, which is taken out by 2 Surfs. He then throws in his Crobat second. His Crobat is then taken out by a few Crunches. Archie then brings in his final Pokemon, Sharpedo. My Sharpedo has taken so much damage that I have to switch into Envy, who then takes out his Sharpedo with multiple Shadow Balls. After saving the world, it was now time for my 8th and final gym badge, Juan, who starts with his Love Disc, but is taken out by 2 Thunderbolts from Wrath, my Absol. Juan then brings in his Wishcast next, which I then answer with my Cacturn, who hits 2 Needle Arms in a row, knocking him out with quadruple effective damage. Next up was Juan Celio, who is super effective against my Cacturn, so I have to switch in Pride in Aurora Beam, and then knocking it out with multiple Crunches. Juan then brings in Crawdon. I then sub Sharpedo out so that he doesn't take more damage. I then bring Lust in to kill him with Sludge Bombs. It was now time to deal with his final Pokemon Kingdra. I bring in my Cacturn to hit a Leech Seed, which takes a couple tries because of the double teams he set up. I then had to switch Cacturn out because of the threat of Ice Beam. So I switch into Crawdon, predicting the Ice Beam. He gets frozen, but not that it matters because Crawdon is only in the battle to get chip damage off and make him use Rest to get rid of the Chester Berry that is on the Kingdra, preparing it for the rest of the battle. To finish it off, I bring in Envy, my Sableye, after Crawdon has taken too much damage. I do this after a long stall battle of resting and missing moves to finally kill the Kingdra and winning me my 8th and final gym badge. I then head into Victory Road to give Wally an absolute beating before fighting the Elite Four. It is now finally time to take on the final challenge of the game, the Elite Four, to which we start off with Sidney, who starts with his Mightyena, which I then proceed to take out with Pride after using 2 Surfs. He then replaces his Mightyena with a Cacturn, to which I answer with my Cacturn of my own. And this is pretty easy to defeat, as I just hit one pin missile, one being a critical hit and the other just hitting normally, knocking him out. He sends his Absol in next, to which I answer with my Crawdaunt. He uses Sword Stance as I switch in, and then uses a Slash, doing half of my health, and then I take him down to red with a Brick Break before he heals back up. I then send Sableye in next, predicting the Slash and negating the damage. He sets up one more Sword Stance and hits me with a Rock Slide before getting taken out by 2 more Shadow Balls. Sidney then sends in his Shift Tree next, to which I then have to sub Sableye out for my Cacturn again, which I then continue to use Pin Missiles once more as it's quite effective. After he heals up once more with a full restore, I then use one last set of Pin Missiles, knocking him out after 4 hits. Sidney then brings in his final Pokemon, Crawdaunt, to which I then stay in with Cacturn and use a couple Needle Arms to knock it out and beat the first Elite Four member. Next up was the Ghost type Elite Four member, Phoebe, who in all honesty was pretty easy as her first 4 Pokemon were all knocked out with one hit. She was left with her final Banette, which I was on 17 health with Sharpedo, but still outsped and knocked it out. Next up was the Ice type Elite Four member, Glacia, who leads off with her first Celio, which is taken out by my Sableye in 2 Shadow Balls. Glacia then brings in her first Glalie next, which Envy does a lot of damage to before being needed to switch out. I then bring Sharpedo in to do a lot of damage with Crunches before I use Bite to end it off, saving Crunches for later. Glacia then brings in her second Celio next, to which gets knocked out with a couple bites afterwards. Glacia then brings in her final Glalie, to which I hit a couple times with Sharpedo before being needed to switch out, so I bring in Lust to hit it with a super effective Brick Break, knocking it out from 2/3 of its HP. She then brings in her final ace Pokemon, Walrein, to which Lust does a bit of damage before being needed to switch out, so I bring Wrath in, taking a Body Slam and then a Surf living on 5 HP while getting paralyzed. I then hit with a Thunderbolt to knock it out, winning me the battle against her. It is now time for the final Elite Four member, Drake. He starts off with his Shelgon, which is then taken out by 1 Ice Beam from my Crawdaunt. Drake then sends in his Altaria next, to which I then also hit with 1 Ice Beam from Crawdaunt, knocking it out in 1 hit. He then sends in his Kingdra next, so I have to bring in my Sableye, but for some reason his Kingdra doesn't hit me with any moves and only uses Dragon Dance, and ends up getting taken out by Shadow Balls. Flygon is brought in next. Envy does a bit more damage with Shadow Ball before being switched out to Sharpedo. Before Sharpedo can do any damage to him, Earthquake does too much, so I then have to switch him out for Cacturn. Cacturn then comes in hitting 1 Needle Arm before getting hit with a Flamethrower, bringing him into the red, having me to switch out once more. I then decide that I need to sack off Sharpedo to be able to get a clean switch into someone else, but by good chances he brings in Salamence on the same turn, so I get 1 more crunch off with Sharpedo before he goes down. With the damage dealt by Sharpedo, I'm then able to bring Wrath in to kill with a Strength. Last, he brings his Flygon back in, but I am able to hit a critical hit Quick Attack to end the battle. Now it's time for the final obstacle in my way before I become champion, Wallace. He starts with his Wailord, which I then knock out with 2 Needle Arm from Cacturn. Wallace then brings in his main Pokemon, Milotic, to which I then stay in with Cacturn, hitting 2 Needle Arms and getting hit by a Toxic, or I then have to let him die so I can, from 2 Surfs, so that I can get a free switch in to Sableye, who gets hit by a Surf before knocking Milotic out with 1 more Shadow Ball. He then sends in his Tentacruel after a fierce battle between Envy and his Tentacle, and him missing 2 Hydro Pumps. I finally take him down. He then sends in his Ludicolo next, but because of the Toxic, I have to then let Envy go down so I can get a free switch into my Absol. Absol then takes the Ludicolo out with 2 consecutive Aerial Aces. Wallace is now down to his second to last Pokemon, Wishcast, which Absol then knocks out with 2 consecutive strengths. Wallace then finally sends in his final Pokemon, Gyarados, to which I use Wrath's Thunderbolt to take it down to 1/4 of a half bar left before Wrath gets sacked, so I can send in my final Pokemon. I now send in Crawdaunt, my final Pokemon left, to deal with the Gyarados, but this is pretty simple as Gyarados only has a bit of health left, so he dies to an Ice Beam, making me the champion of Hoenn and winning me the challenge. And there you have it, we have completed Pokemon Emerald by using only Dark type Pokemon. I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, why not think about leaving a like and possibly subscribing. Well, that is all, I'll see you next time.